Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday. That must mean it's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you on this evening?
I am doing just dandy. How are you doing on your side?
I am doing dandy as well. I was just complaining seconds before I've got to a weird challenge in Pikmin 4 that I'm trying to figure out. But
Hmm.
other than that, things are going swimmingly. This is my dog Penny. She insisted upon being on my lap for a second. I
She
think
wants
she's
to be
made
a co-host tonight. She
Yeah,
can get
she's
away with
made
it being so
cameo
cute.
appearances before. How
Cool.
are you
Wait, so
though doing?
you were talking about well, I'll get into drawing, but then we'll get into what you were talking about before real
Mm-hmm.
quick. Let me just might as well roll into that. So let me see here. Share screen. Share, and you can see my screen, I'm assuming.
I sure can.
Yeah, so this is a scene with Calamity and Uncle Leon warming their hands by the fire,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna do some cleanup work on this stuff. I mean, the animatics here with the animation kind of in place, but
Okay.
I'll be fine tuning this section tonight as we talk.
Sounds good to me.
So, all right, so you're talking about Pikmin. It's a new game you just picked up over the weekend. This was released last week, right?
Yeah, it was. It was released, I think last Thursday or last Friday,
Uh-huh.
and it's good. I am, as a general rule, a mega fan of Pikmin. Have loved it since the very first one. I
Hmm.
think my biggest complaint is that the difficulty tends to be pretty unbalanced. Like, most of the regular game is right at my difficulty level. It's exactly
Okay.
where it is. I find it challenging, but not like I don't need to play 100 hours of this to master it kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But then it has a few bosses here and there that are like, Jesus Christ, come on, guys, cool your jets, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then starting with, I don't remember, it's been so long, and I've been playing the series so long, but I do remember, like, in Pikmin 3 in particular, the last boss was a nightmare. I actually had to get on YouTube and watch a Let's Play to figure out how to beat it.
Hmm.
It was so like I don't know what you're asking of me, game, you know.
Hmm.
And my memory
Hmm.
serves like basically. In this is a particularly frustrating thing in Japanese games. I've noticed they spend the entire game teaching you how to do things, right?
Okay.
And
Hmm.
then like some major boss or some major challenge will go, okay, everything that you've spent the last X number of hours learning, forget it. And now we're going to force you to do everything in a completely different way. And we're
Hmm.
not going to explain to you how to do it. You got to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
And if it were a different game and you hadn't been trained to approach the problems in the way that we trained you, you might be able to figure this out. But because we're going completely against your training, screw you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so Pikmin tends to do this, and it's been my biggest complaint of the franchise since the very very first game.
So every game, every version of the game has done this to you.
Yeah, every version of the game, and I just got to a part in Pikmin 4 that it's sort of like it even says we don't know what to do, just run away from it for the time being. And I'm like, well, that's not like give me a problem and let me solve it. Don't throw me into a
Yeah.
situation where my only option is to run or whatever, and all of a sudden, like for instance, what I'm talking about is in Pikmin 4 there are these underground tunnel sections where
Hmm.
there's no time limit. You can explore basically as long as you want, and you just go floor by floor, finding everything, solving the challenges within the floor, and then all of a sudden I'm playing this one tunnel, and this invincible water wraith falls from the top, and the game goes, "Oh, you can't do anything about it. Just run." And I'm like, "Wait, do I just abandon all the treasure that I haven't collected yet, or do I try to collect the treasure even though there's the monster there?" And I think it's like a little of column A, a little of column B, but it's something that is just it's completely changing the rules of the game halfway through the game, and it's just kind of frustrating if you want to know the truth.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so anyway, that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a little bit of a frustrating part, but before that, I mean, it's been great. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about it. It's basically got every single Pikmin from all of the previous games plus They've added Ice Pikmin now, which is a great addition.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of the Pikmin has some of my favorite bug creature design. It's just all of they're so whimsical and silly, but also threatening looking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a really fun game to look at, and it's also really fun to play. And as always, it's like Nintendo taking a very entrenched genre and going, okay, what can we remove from this experience that isn't all that fun, and then let's make a game about what's left, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it basically Pikmin is Nintendo's answer to real-time strategy games, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is rather good. And in fact, it's interesting that more people, because usually Nintendo, when they hit on something that's fun, everybody immediately starts trying to copy it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody tries to milk it, of course.
Yeah, and I find Pikmin to be incredibly entertaining and incredibly fun. Have since the first game came out in 2002, 2003? I don't remember. Hold on. Pikmin release date. The original 2001. Yeah, I was right. I know because I had just moved to Seattle to start going to DigiPen.
Okay.
And it was on the GameCube. Anyway, so and it blows my mind that more games haven't kind of aped that mechanic. There are two notable ones: the Overlord franchise, which was quite great. I loved Overlord. It got a little bit. The second one it was great up to a point, and then it got too combat focused and not puzzle focused, so it wasn't nearly as good. And then Brutal Legend, which was Double Fine's oft misunderstood heavy metal inspired action-ish game that EA published of all people.
Yep. I played that myself.
And it was deeply misunderstood until you realize, oh, this is just Pikmin, and I don't need to micromanage everything. I just go do here, and then the AI takes care of it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember first playing Brutal Legend and going, I don't get this game, I don't understand it. And then Tim Schafer actually released an essay explaining how you were supposed to play the game. And I'm like, oh, it's just Pikmin. and then I just started playing it like Pikmin. I'm like, this game is great, right? But it was, the game was so badly messaged. The UX was so bad that it took the creative director writing an essay that basically said, it's just Pikmin, for me to go, oh, I understand how to play this game now.
It's funny. I played Brutal Legend without any Pikmin knowledge at all. I haven't played Pikmin yet to this day. I know it's a good game. I just never got around to playing it.
Yeah.
But when I played Brutal Legend, it is a very confusing game because the pacing is so odd. Because when you first play it, if I recall, it's been years now since I played it, but when you first play it, I believe it starts out kind of like a hack and slash action RPG third person type of game. Then about 30% into the game, all of a sudden it just introduces RTS elements to it. And so at that point, I have plenty of StarCraft hours under my belt between 1 and 2, and Warcraft. So it was fine. I was just adjusted to it and played it. But I thought it was just a weird kind of bump in the game where all of a sudden now you're just playing an RTS game. It's like that's a really it just kind of takes the pacing out of it. But what kept me into the game was just I liked the music. I enjoyed the heavy metal.
The soundtrack
was
amazing.
Theme.
Yeah. And
I mean,
Jack Black is a great voice actor.
Yeah, he's a great voice actor. Didn't they even get Ozzy to do the?
Yeah, no, they had Ozzy. They had Dio. They had Meatloaf. They got Brian Posehn. I mean, the cast was unbelievable. Yeah.
I think even Mel and Lemmy's in it too.
Lemmy was in it. That's right. Yeah.
It's when you think about it now, especially nowadays, even though it's a relatively kind of it's not that old, but it's old enough. There's no way you can make a game like that now. It'd be too cost prohibitive because of licensing and the voice actors they got. It's a very special game in that regard. But it did, like you said, it got really it was really misunderstood, and it's a shame because
Yeah.
it's a really good game.
It is really good, and yeah, you're right. It will never get a remaster because
Yep.
just it
There's
would
no way.
cost way too much money to relicense all of that stuff. Because I guarantee you the licenses weren't in perpetuity, and I guarantee you it was for that specific platform.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's crazy to me. But yeah, and EA did not. I mean, like some of the responsibility falls to Double Fine, in that they did such a poor job of. I mean, like the first almost 3 or 4 hours, it was just a hack and slash.
Yep. Yeah, and I
But
thought that's what it was going to be the entire game. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can get used to this. It's fine. Like a Bayonetta. I mean, not as polished as a Bayonetta game, but to me, it was kind of in that same vein. Like,
Yeah.
just an action
Yeah.
style type of game, and yeah. And for that, it's fine. It's a great game for that. But yeah, once you introduce the RTS elements, it's just different because it didn't. To me, it felt like it just lost its identity. You don't know what it's supposed to be anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part
That's
of
the
the
challenge.
part of the frustration too was that EA didn't have any faith in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and so they released a demo of Brutal Legend, but it was just the first 3 hours of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
so you
and
got
so you don't
no
know.
exposure to the
Yeah.
RTS elements of it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so people buy it going, oh, this is a Double Fine's take on Devil May Cry, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it very much is not that game. I mean, it was a an odd duck. I mean, you did have the combat stuff, but the moment to moment game actually ended up being you could jump up into the air eventually.
Mhm.
You got a power that you
Mhm.
grew wings, and you could view the
Yeah.
battlefield from the air. And
Yeah.
once you did that, you could see where all your objectives were, and you could kind of make a determination on the kind of troops you need to produce, right? It was like a little bit of tower defense,
Yeah.
a lot RTS, and then once you like send your troops off to go do their thing, then you just let them do their thing, and then you
Mhm.
drop down as Jack Black's character, and then you can go to town on everything, Devil May Cry
Yeah.
style.
Mm-hmm.
And then every once in a while, you jump back up into the air to check the progress of your strategy, make adjustments here and there. So it wasn't like as Pikmin-ishy as, say, Overlord was. Overlord was just an unabashed ripoff of Pikmin. I mean, it was just... I shouldn't say ripoff, because it was a phenomenal game that did a lot of things that Pikmin doesn't do that really make it stand out.
Mm-hmm.
But Brutal Legend, it was such a mash of stuff. I mean, it was 3 or 4 genres all rolled into one. Plus, there was an open world mechanic where
Yep.
you had like the entire open world that you could drive through. I mean, it was an ambitious game.
It was, yeah.
And once you figured out how to play it, it was great. But it was not a very accessible game.
Yeah, once you have to get past I think what lost people is the user confusion of just how you switch gears, but the whole art design, music design, sound design was excellent. It's such a walking contradiction of a game because of the things that they threw at you and hope that you would digest in time to stick with it. And to me it was worth sticking with it till the very end. I don't remember how the game ends, but I remember beating it, and it was a good game. I was like, if I was to give it a ranking out of 5 stars, I'd probably give it a good 4 stars, easy, because of all the art that was involved with it. That alone makes it a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
But great game, no. I mean, sorry, like the top 5, like highest tier of gameplay type of game, no. It's because it just had really good ideas, but they weren't executed well enough and blended together enough to make it a near perfect game. Sadly,
Mm-hmm.
but.
Yeah, I enjoyed
So-
it, and it was definitely, maybe to this day, Double Fine's biggest experiment, frankly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing I like about Double Fine, though, is they're always trying to do... I don't know about now. I haven't played a game of theirs in years.
Yeah, I didn't play Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts was one of my least favorite of their games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I played a little bit of Psychonauts, and I got bored within half an hour. It felt like a typical third-person, fetch quest, do this, do that kind of game. And I didn't understand the appeal with it. But maybe it was a timing because, maybe that type of games are still kind of fresh and new for people, so it kind of gets the benefit of history being kind of released early like that. But, yeah, I couldn't get into Psychonauts, so I didn't bother with Psychonauts 2 because I felt like I had to play Psychonauts 1 to really catch any kind of, inside jokes for Psychonauts 2.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. But yeah, back to Pikmin 4. So Pikmin 4, meanwhile, they've kind of perfected their. It sounds like they've perfected their game with each
Yeah,
generation as they've gone.
yeah, it's another one of the situations where they sort of reached the apotheosis of what Pikmin is. Like Smash Brothers Ultimate, Mario Kart 8, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and now Pikmin 4. I don't really know where they go with the franchise after this. I don't. Nintendo's attitude is always we don't release another game in the series unless we can really bring something new to the table, right? And in I think Legend of Zelda, with Zelda and Mario, they tend to make exceptions to the rules. But even within the Mario franchise, they do really clever things with how they implement the platforming mechanics, like Mario's hat and Odyssey, the different suits, the perspective and multiplayer Super Mario 3D World, the Bowser's Fury thing. So they keep some of the core mechanics and then they bring new ideas to it, right? But I'm really, be really curious, because at least with Legend of Zelda, I get the sense that they're like, we don't really know where else to take this formula that we've been doing since 1986, right? 87.
Yeah.
And that's where Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom come in. Now, obviously that shift, as we've talked about at length, wasn't for me, but it was them bringing entirely new ideas. Now, I am of the opinion that those are not Zelda games. I mean, they've so completely thrown the baby out with the bathwater with those two games. There's, other than the art design and some of the tropes of like Zelda and the Master Sword and the Deku Tree and things of that nature, there's nothing about that game that is Legend of Zelda. Which is whatever. That's just my own priors, right? I mean, it's just a title. It doesn't dictate what the mechanics are. But anyway, it's certainly not what I'm looking for. Mario continues to give me what I'm looking for in terms of 3D platformers, but who knows? But in any case, I don't really know where you take Mario Kart 8 after this point, right? Like maybe you go full on Diddy Kong Racing and make it an open world game where you have a ton of different vehicles. But frankly, Diddy Kong Racing already did it, and I don't need Mario Kart to go in that direction, right? With Pikmin 4, they just everything and the kitchen sink is in this game. All of the Pikmin from the previous games. I was looking online. Apparently, like after you beat the main game, it effectively unlocks the first Pikmin that you can play over again, right?
The very first Pikmin game?
Basically, yes. You have to rebuild Captain Olimar's ships, but the only difference is that instead of 30 days, you only have 15 days to do it. So it's kind of a challenge mode.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's everything in the kitchen sink is in this game, right? And so it's like, I don't really know where they go beyond this. Same with Animal Crossing, New Horizons. After the Happy Home Designer DLC, almost every single Animal Crossing that's ever been made has been included in this single package, along with your ability to just completely redesign your island as you desire. It's like, I don't know what you do with Animal Crossing after this, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm really curious, in particular with the Switch 2, what their next play is. And admittedly, the people who make these games at Nintendo are far more clever than I will ever be. And they'll release the next one and I'll go, oh, well, of course, that's what you should do, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, for my piece, at least right now, Pikmin 4 is kind of like, I don't know where you take it from here. I mean, it is the apotheosis of what Pikmin always was and always what Miyamoto intended it to be at the very beginning, So, anyway, I mean, they even delivered on the thing that everybody has been waiting for that game for the whole long, is there's an entire area of the game that takes place in a house, right? Up to this point, Pikmin has had a lot of the accoutrement of humans, I guess, even though it's not clear to me that the game takes place on Earth. But now you actually go into a house with just tables and, building blocks and chest of drawers and ceiling fans and that kind of stuff, right? So they've even delivered on that, which is something that I think a lot of Pikmin fans have been asking for a long time. And so it's just like, well, I don't, what do you do, right? And same with Smash Brothers Ultimate. You've got basically every important character in the history of the franchise franchise.
Yeah.
Of video games, not just the franchise, of video games included here, right? I mean, every not hyper violence, like Doom Guy's not in it, and Dante from Devil May Cry is not in it. But for the most part, it's even got Minecraft characters and Capcom characters and properties that are now owned by Microsoft and Square Enix characters, and it's absolutely insane to me. The content of that game, and I don't really know where you go for that, and I feel that way about a lot of Nintendo's properties right now. Like, they finally sort of delivered on everything that the fans have wanted, and now you're going, this is awesome, I love this. Now what? Right?
Yeah.
As a fan, I'm like, now what? Right? I see the initial trailer for Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and it looks, at least based on that initial gameplay trailer, it looks amazing, and I'm super excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it'll be fun because I'm just super easily entertained by that style of game. So, and it's Mario, so I know it'll be peak platforming goodness. But I don't know where any of the other franchises that they've spent so long go. Do they pull a Breath of the Wild and just come up with something completely different and just put the franchise's name on it, right?
So you're saying after Wonder, you're wondering where they're going to go with it?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, after Wonder, which is great, but ultimately, at the end of the day, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a 2D Mario game with clearly some new platforming gimmicks, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. I feel like Mario, more than any of the other properties, can kind of just trade on that forever.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't really doing 2D platformers anymore. Nintendo is really the only one doing 2D or 3D platformers at this point. But like, like with Legend of Zelda, they dropped the formula that had kind of defined Legend of Zelda for 30 years and went into more of an open world RPG like Skyrim kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have any of the very few of the trappings of the franchise. And so it's Legend of Zelda, but if you stripped away the visual similarities, no one would confuse one game for the other. No one would say that both of these games are related, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mechanics are so fundamentally different. And I'm just wondering if they're going to do that same thing with like Mario Kart. Maybe Mario Kart 9 is, I don't know, more like Twisted Metal, like they just completely throw everything out and just keep their visual similarities and just go with a completely different game,
The thing about Mario Kart, they've been pretty smart about it, is they've pretty much been, it's pretty much the same game, all these iterations later, and you roll over a mystery box and you just beat up your friends and or opponents, and then they've slowly kind of borrowed ideas from, like, for example, like F-Zero, where you have like super speed things, and having anti-gravity tracks and stuff like that. They've actually, their success with other games have now been kind of, Mario Kart 8 has become the Borg of racing games, cartoonish racing games, because
right.
They borrowed so many ideas that now you can't do an F-Zero anymore because now Mario Kart's already done it.
And Nintendo's even said that recently. Like at their biggest shareholders meeting, they're like, someone asked like F-Zero, they always inevitably ask about dormant properties, and someone asked about F-Zero, and they're like, well, we're probably never going to do another F-Zero because Mario Kart is a much more popular franchise, and we basically, every aspect of F-Zero is in Mario Kart now, right?
Yeah, I just think, this is just me, one lowly fan out there that disagrees with that. I just think they laid out a whole mythology and mythos to F-Zero that I do want to see. I want to see those characters again. I want to see Captain Falcon again. I want to see the Golden Fox again.
Yeah.
And I want to see, and if it takes itself more seriously, and you don't have mystery boxes, so be it. I don't mind a racing game.
If it's more of a pure racer,
I think there's still a market for that, but will it make gangbusters money like Mario Kart? No, never. It never will. It'll never touch that. But I think when they made F-Zero, I think they already got a kind of they have fans for life of that franchise forever. And if they made another one, I think it would still make money. Same with Star Fox, another one that's kind of interesting, on-rails shooter game, third-person perspective, and they have never pushed I guess they don't know what to do with it, but it's just sad.
Well,
It's
they'll
another great
occasionally,
mythology too.
yeah, they'll occasionally try to experiment with something. There's that very much maligned Wii U Star Fox Zero. But the biggest thing that is so, I think it's just gotten confusing for people, is that for whatever reason, the way they've done Star Fox, for the most part, is like there was Star Fox, Star Fox 2, which came out last year, right? It was a game that was done, and they just shelved it on the SNES, on the Super NES.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
I'm
shelved it
confused by
because
that.
it was going to come out at the same time that the N64 came out, and they didn't want to do, cannibalize it. So they just shelved it. And then a ROM leaked, and eventually they just dusted off the code, and now it's, if you have like a Switch Online account, you can play Star Fox 2. But here's the thing, as it turns out, so that on the DS they released a game called Star Fox Command, and that it's basically just Star Fox 2. It's exactly the same mechanics. You have a solar system that you can fly around however you want, and you have fuel that dictates where you go in the solar system, and as you finish one stage, it unlocks different stages. And so rather than sort of like the predefined path of stages that you could take in the Star Fox, the original Star Fox and the Star Fox 64, you basically defined your own path through the game, and it's actually really cool. I really liked it, and it's a shame that it took until Star Fox Command to get there. But I'll be honest, like, I played Star Fox 2, and it's like, yeah, this is cool, but Star Fox Command on the DS kind of did it already, and did it way better, understandably, right? But, they've... What's that?
Why didn't they put a number after Star Fox Command? Because to me, it's confusing with the Star Fox brand. Remember when they did that stupid... Well, it's not stupid, it just was okay, but the Star Fox Dinosaur Adventure, Star Fox... What was it called?
Star Fox Adventures.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was not. It had nothing. It wasn't a Star Fox. It was just a third-person game with the fox running out with a spear.
Yeah, it was just basically Zelda with the Star Fox team. My understanding basically was that the visual styles that Rare was producing, it just wasn't. No one liked it at Nintendo, But Rare had put all of this work into it. And the game, honestly, isn't bad. I mean, it's not great.
It's not great. It's not bad. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it's not bad. But, in today's day and age, though, I would not play that game.
No. It was definitely not one of Rare's better pieces in their heyday. But they knew... They hadn't done a Star Fox game for a while. People were clamoring for Star Fox, so they thought, well, what if we dusted off this old franchise that's been lying dormant, do it as a wrapper around this mediocre Rare game, and then maybe we'll, split the difference. And it kind of did, and it kind of didn't. But at the end of the day, everybody's like, this isn't really Star Fox. It's just the Star Fox characters, right?
Yeah.
And now I feel like people would be a lot more lenient with it.
Maybe. Because, again, I think people are hungry for... people would be hungry to play a Star Fox-centered game. And what's funny is, when you said Star Fox Command, as a fan... I didn't trust Star Fox because of Star Fox Adventure. Okay, it's just some other offshoot. I want a shooter game. So I didn't even give Star Fox Command a second look. If I would have known back then that Star Fox Command was pretty much Star Fox 2, I would have bought that in a heartbeat. It was poor marketing and poor communication on their side to even let me know that, because I felt kind of duped with Star Fox Adventure. Why do I trust this next? It's not called Star Fox 2 or 2.5, it's called Star Fox blah 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 blah. It's
right.
It's just trying to milk something else,
Yeah, what Star Fox is similar to Kirby in a lot of ways, where they tend to do. It's kind of they're one of their experimental franchises. I don't know, throw Star Fox at it. But the difference is that some of the experiments that Kirby came up with, HAL Laboratories with the Kirby property, were great. They're really, really clever stuff, right? But it's not, I don't know, Star Fox and then Star Fox 64, which is basically just a remake of the original Star Fox. And then you have Star Fox Adventure on the GameCube, which is whoa, this is a completely different thing. We wanted another on-rail shooter, right? And then Star Fox Command on the DS, and everybody's like, okay, this is cool. It kind of revitalized people's interest in it. And then, good lord, there was another one that I'm missing before Star Fox Zero that Platinum Games did. Star Fox Guard was not great. Star Fox Assault. Star Fox Assault. They went back to on the GameCube. They went back to the rail shooter thing, kind of, but only like a quarter of the stages were rail shooters. The rest were like open world tank combat games. There were ones that you actually played as Fox McCloud that you ran through bases and it became like a cover shooter.
What?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember if this was okay. Yeah, it was done in house by Nintendo, and they really did their best effort to kind of revitalize the franchise with it, but it just wasn't. I don't know why. It just wasn't what people were looking for. I liked it a lot. But it just never really got a lot of traction from people. And then it went dormant for a long time, and then finally Star Fox Zero came out, and that was in 2016, and Star Fox Zero was yet another remake of the original storyline, right? So Star Fox 64, and Star Fox Zero are all the same storyline, and it never advanced the franchise. Star Fox Zero was done by... It was developed by Platinum Games. Shigeru Miyamoto, it was actually the creative director on it. He usually doesn't get directly involved in games anymore because he had this idea of piloting the ship while also independently piloting the weapons from the gamepad screen. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like a really clever idea on paper until you try to play the game and you're like, but I only have like one set of eyes. I can't look at both screens at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And so, as a result, it was just, it was like, I don't, great idea, it doesn't translate well into a game, right? And so, yeah, I mean, like that, there's been, I'm looking at the list here, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Star Fox games, including the reboot of Star Fox 64 for the 3DS. And then Star Fox Guard, which was a puzzle game, believe it or not, which is very weird. I downloaded it and it was a strange game. But anyway, yeah, it's another franchise that had a really strong first couple of games and they just didn't really know what to do with the franchise after that. And I don't think that I don't know that they'll ever do another attempt at a Star Fox game, personally.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, again, it's people are growing up, kids are growing up with the Star Fox characters smashed over now, wondering who's Star Fox, and then you can still play the old games, but you're kind of already setting yourself for exploring that world, letting younger generations know what Star Fox is about. But yeah, but it's sad because I don't feel like Nintendo really cares about that stuff. All they really do care about is what the software can do that's new, and the character and story become really secondary, which. How do you argue with it because they're successful? And,
I mean, I don't have a problem with it, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a problem with it when they take a franchise aesthetic that I like and then wrap it around a game I don't like Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this at length. I mean, like the art direction of that game is second to none. I cannot get over about how much I love the way that those games look, but I don't like playing them, right? And it's just like, well, that sucks. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, kind of bring it all back. I think a lot of their big marquee franchises, they've sort of reached the peak of the promise of the premise on a lot of these, and I'm really curious about what they're going to do when the Switch successor comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even you can look at present, the games that have been released on Switch, Metroid Dread. I think they even sent it out to Mercury Steam. It's not even a first-party in-house game.
Yeah.
The latest iteration of Metroid has been, and even before that, like Other M, they farmed that out to Team Ninja.
Yeah.
Again, it was maybe they just don't know what to do with some of their stable, in-house stable characters that are, pretty much approaching mythical legendary status, and yet they can't do anything with them.
Yeah,
Except for Mario. Mario's been able to. But again, when did Odyssey come out? Like 7 years ago?
2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. A long time ago now.
Yeah.
You know, and they still experiment with Mario. They did that kind of weird sub game that was connected to Super Mario 3D World Deluxe called Bowser's Fury, which was basically just an open world Mario game, and it was brilliant. I mean, I loved it. I would. My hope is that they take my hope is that that was like a, hey, we're gonna test this mechanic and see if people like it.
Yeah. And I hope they do, because the thing is, like, with that type of game, you could have talented level designers can always come up with a new level for you to just navigate through, and you could milk a whole bunch of. You could just keep. I bet they could do something yearly and make a new game. 2024 Mario World and 2025 Mario World, and I think people would eat it up. New levels to just navigate and try to do. I mean, because it's a really good game. I haven't played Bowser's Fury yet, but I beat 3D World, except for then I went out in space, and then those levels are really hard.
Yeah, the last levels, oof. And that's the way Mario's kind of gotten. All Nintendo games have gotten in recent years, where the core game is designed for as many players as possible, right? But then, like, the end game content is like, you must be this obsessive to enter, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't meet that bar, so I'm gonna go play something else.
So you're telling me you didn't beat the outer space levels?
No, I think I tried like one or two of them, and then I'm like, nope, not interested. And it was the same thing with like Mario Galaxy 2, which was crazy hard, and and Super Mario Odyssey, the Dark Side of the Moon stages were just like, this isn't fun. I'm gonna go play something else that's fun. And like Pikmin 4, and not just Pikmin 4, but like Pikmin 3 and I believe Pikmin 2, they also had these like ultra hard challenge modes that I never even wasted my time attempting. I remember like Pikmin 3 had all this like DLC content, and I didn't buy any of it because it's like ultra hard, test your Pikmin skills with these new downloadable maps. I'm like, no thanks, I'll pass.
Not fun. But at least the core game itself is fun enough, I think, for kind of an all ages type of thing. So they're still pretty smart with how they, let their games get, let the games feel accessible to all kinds of people to play. So that part's good. So, yeah. I'm just gonna. I think I'm still working on this, but I think I'm in a good spot. But this is where.
Well, it can be a shorter stream tonight. We don't always have to go for a really long time.
Yeah, it's not really necessarily. This is kind of more of open to discussion, but like as I'm going, I've kind of put my, and I'm working through this, and I have some ideas of how I'm going to get around it. But do you see how dark everything is? Pretty much the brightest thing in this shot, for example, is a fire. Now the background is not done yet, so that's why you see a flat purple. But it's just meant to be something there as placeholder. And we go to the next scene. Pretty dark, but the flame is bright. Zoom out, pretty dark. You can't really see the action. My intention was to put, and I'll do a paint over here. Was to just paint lighting effects, like that.
Yeah,
it's
just some rim lights.
Yeah, some room lighting kind of stuff, and then so you see the hint of shadows. Until it gets to a point where then they get more into full light here. But even then, I was still gonna do kind of like this type of a treatment to it, not like the scratchy or sketchy, but that type of flat kind of painting to it until we get to this whole shot here, where then we do get to see them. They still stay. So here's the other thing, like you and I as here's of this show. Do we show this type of stuff or not, or should we hold back? I don't know. Does it matter, or I don't know. I can't.
I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, the finished product will be the finished product.
Its own thing.
Yeah. And honestly, this is like the first 30 seconds of the episode anyway. So. Yeah.
So we get the Warthog to enter the scene. We're playing through it, and so you see right here. The intention was you can see the room light here, and it fades off. He goes back to pretty much dark. and then Calamity talks, says her line, and they do their stare off. And then, okay, we'll go through that. I know it's hard to do with sound, but we do this whole stare off thing. He lunges at Leon, throws him off, pushes her off. That was that shot that I did last week.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, and then this is where everybody goes into full color.
Right.
Is when he lifts his hat up.
Right.
I do like that idea, and it's really an abstract way to use lighting because we're using lighting in a very designy kind of way and not having to perform a natural physical light.
Yeah.
You know, how we see it in the world, which I kind of find fun. But sometimes I will second guess myself, like, man, it's so dark, because my artistic side is like getting angry at myself, going, man, I really set up myself for some problems with how dark it is. But am I going to get away? I'm just speaking out loud to you, like going, man, I think I can get away with this because the lighting effects will help give the sense of shape, and that's good enough because we'll see plenty of shape later as the show goes on.
I mean, since I'm the one who wrote in the script, everything is dark and all you can see is silhouettes around the campfire, I gotta take some responsibility for this. Given that I actually said that in the script, like everything is dark but the campfire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, it's been so long since I've read the black and white written word, but yes, I know I sourced it from somewhere. It had to have been your scripts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, we have banter back and forth.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a debate, we'll talk about something. But I didn't see an issue with it. You didn't see an issue with it. So we're just gonna go forward with it. That's kind of how it looks.
Yeah. I mean, I dig it. So I still dig it.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
All right. Cool. So my worries are alleviated for now as I go through it. But there's this discussion I'm having because I'm fighting rules in my head, going, man, but all good. As I keep going with this scene, we'll see how it materializes. So,
okay. I think it looks great. No notes for me.
Oh, let me see. There's one other thing I want to show you tonight too.
Yeah.
This is from last week. Well, the week before, I think. So let me turn off. That reminds me, yeah. So where is it? There we go. That's her new expression.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a newer one than last week we had her kind of in a different kind of a.
Yeah, her mouth was a little closed and it looked like she was smiling.
Yeah, so now she is a little bit more expression filled.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely better.
That feels better?
Mm-hmm. Could you zoom out? Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it, though.
Yeah, what do you feel? What are you feeling?
It's my same problem there's something about the eyes that make her look not shocked or scared.
Huh.
She still is not coming across. Well, again, when you zoom in, it's better, but for whatever reason, when I look at it, what's that?
Well, I mean, for one thing, we're not going to watch it this small.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, nothing really looks the same when you're. You'll never watch it that small.
Yeah.
It'll be about this size, roughly. I mean, either on your phone screen or wherever, when we publish it to YouTube. But yeah, it's the eyes, huh?
Something about the eyes. I can't put my finger on it.
Well, we'll ruminate on it. And maybe we can discuss it. Yeah. So for me, it's doing the job, but the one thing is like when you and I talk in a way. See, you're a representation of an audience in a way, right? So it needs to. If it's not being conveyed, that emotion, then that's kind of a concern for me because I feel like it does, but if you don't feel that, then it becomes a concern because like, oh man, well maybe I could do something else, and I don't mind tweaking it, but I don't know what else I can really do.
Yeah, I don't think you should do anything right now. There's a lot of things not happening. A, the background's not finished. B, we're not hearing any of the music.
Yeah.
C, we're not hearing any of the VO. I'm looking at a single frame of animation out of context of anything. It's extremely not a good idea to be making any sort of decisions based on that. I think once we see it all holistically, if it looks like if I'm still getting that read, then we can have that conversation. But right now, I'd say.
And maybe even then, like by the time we get back to this, like maybe you'll have an idea, and I mean,
Right.
and I'll gladly sketch it out. And also, this shot is so fast that for economy's sake, there's other things I could be working on that are more important. I mean, the main thing is we have something here, and to me, it's pretty much done. But I have no qualms going back and redoing the head.
Yeah. Okay. And
A
I think
little
I know
bit.
what it is. She's
Hmm.
falling, and she's almost getting the wind knocked out of her.
Uh-huh.
When I get the wind knocked out of her, I go oof. My mouth is an O, and my eyes close. Oof. Right. Because it's a shocking, and you go into almost a protective expression. And she's like, oh, that's more of an exclamation rather
Uh-huh.
than a. And I'm not saying change anything, but I think that is what's getting me is she's supposed to be going oof, like she just hit the ground,
Hmm.
and so my expression is completely different than what that would be.
I get you. It almost sounds apples or oranges, kind of like, because yeah, but the thing is, I could add a blink or a reaction where she can kind of go from closed to open and settle
Mm-hmm.
into that pose more. I mean, there's something I could do there.
I wouldn't do
So
any work
yeah,
on it again. It's just food
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
thought. We should
But
see the
let's,
whole thing first, and then we can make a
yeah,
distinction
yeah.
or decision
But
rather.
yeah, but we have this on our podcast and or stream, and we could always come back and revisit it. But in the general sense, for all intents and purposes, this scene is pretty much done, and
Mm-hmm.
there's some debate maybe on later on as we go forward. But yeah, there's plenty of other stuff I could be working on that needs work, which like this scene, this following scene next, et cetera, et cetera. And we can always go back. That's the beauty of it.
Works for me.
So cool.
All right. Well, we ended up after over 45 minutes. So I'd say
Yeah,
I'd say
that's
it's
why.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I stopped a little bit short because I was like, you know what, we're gonna talk a little bit about some shots and stuff like that anyway. So I think we're good.
Well, anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you head on over to calamityjane.rocks, that'll take you to our Patreon site, and when you're there, you can choose to join us on this crazy adventure to bring this cartoon a reality. Please consider subscribing. Obviously, we're on YouTube and Facebook. That's generally how you find us, and we've also got a Twitter account, although now it's apparently called X. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a whole
We're
other thing.
yeah,
We may have to.
we're probably going to be changing that soon. If you've been following
Yeah,
it, you'll notice we haven't been posting much there.
yeah, it's kind of a
It's
mess over
it's a
there.
bit of a mess, and I don't know that we're really getting what we want out of it anymore. So I would usually say tune in there, but it's been pretty spotty recently, partially because of what our Lord and Savior Elon Musk has been doing to the platform. Anyway, suffice it to say, you can still go and check out all of our backlog of tweets there. We've got a ton of stuff for you to read through, and again, if you read it, none of it will make any sense. But then an episode that'll be about that tweet will happen. You go, oh my god, these guys have spent way too much time thinking about this show. They were plotting out stuff 3 years in advance, and yes, we were. So. Anyway, while Twitter or X or whatever it's going to be called next week is still online, go over there and at least check out the stuff that we've already done. Anyway, we'll call it for the night there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Let me check. I'm pretty sure next week I'll be fine. Yep, next week is the 31st. Wow, jeez, can you believe it's almost August? Anyway,
Yeah,
I will be back for the 31st. James, will you be here on the 31st?
I should be. Yeah, so
Great.
come on by, leave comments for us if you have disagree with our statements about Pikmin 4 and or any of the games
Definitely.
we
Love
talked
to hear
about
you
tonight.
tell me I'm a moron.
We're, we're both used to
I
that.
feed off of your hatred.
We got thick skin. We're good. We'll be
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, we will be. But no, we honestly do love to hear your opinions. I mean, if they're mean-spirited, we're just going to ignore them. But if you wanted to have
Yeah.
conversations with us in good faith, we love hearing other people's opinions.
Yeah,
So,
we love geeking out. So.
so anyway, thanks for tuning in. As always, we'll be back next week. Stay safe out there, everybody, and have a good night. Good night.
Good night.